Okay, hi everyone. I guess most persons on this call actually joining from Nigeria and Africa at large. So good evening, and for our speakers that are joining from the US, it should be afternoon, good afternoon as well. It's my pleasure to introduce Lane and the work we're actually doing at Lane. Lane stands for Light Africa Network. It's actually a community that is leveraging. we- It's a community focused on assisting Africans majorly with their MBA journeys. That's before they even get admission to school, during the MBA journeys, and even post MBAs. We have had lay members join like top business schools, and we actually like the deck actually shows some of those schools. So for today webinar, logistics, there'll be question and answer at the end of the section. We'll advise you to turn on your cameras and be respectful and supportive. The link to the attendance form has actually been dropped on the chat. You can actually fill that. And for those that attend and fill the attendance form, you'll probably be getting a free application fee. You'll be getting a fee waiver for your application. And finally, to keep the call very orderly, if you are not asking a question or contributing to the conversation, I encourage you to please remain on mute. About Lane. So Lane is actually a platform where we are leveraging the power of community to bring you to the possibilities of a suitable MBA programs. We are very delighted to follow you through your goals and your dream for your top business school programs. And we are here to ensure that you maximize every opportunities that are around you. So about M4A, M4A stands for MBA for Africa. It's one of the programs, one of our programs that we actually run from Lane. The Lane MBA for African webinar series, it aims to bridge the gap between Africans and business schools by partnering with admission officers across top 100 global MBA programs. So the MBA for Africa, for short M4A, series of webinars actually provide Africans with the resources and first-hand information and knowledge about MBA programs and the application process. We plan to engage 12 schools. We had a conversation last week with Basin College, and today we'll actually be speaking with student and admission committee member from Simon and Business School. What to expect? The program will actually run from August to September, and it holds on weekend, Saturdays and Sundays. Why you should attend even subsequent webinars is that I'd mentioned the free application fee waiver, but then you also have an opportunity to connect directly with Outcome to learn from current African students, get tips for your MBA application, and even ask those questions that might be, those questions might be seeking clarification for. So I'd hand over to Olamide to introduce our speakers for today.
Thank you so much, Efosa. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us. I know you are dialing from different aspects of the world, and it is such a privilege to have all of you on this call, including our partner school and also alumni and current students. My name is Olamide. I'm a partner with Lane. I'm super excited to be introducing Julie, Tommy, and Stella of University of Rochester Simon Business School. Tommy is one of my favorite people on this journey. And I'm so delighted that we actually had this opportunity to bring them on board. One interesting fact you would actually learn today is that people have choices with their MBA process, and that's part of the reasons why we organize like the MBA for Africa. You would learn some of this just by listening to some of the things you would hear from Tommy, Stella, and also more information about University of Rochester. So thank you so much for joining us, Julie, Tommy, and also Stella. Yeah, I would hand over to you to take it away. I will just be hanging in there. And also for everyone on the call as well, we're going to share an updated version of the attendance form. So you would actually be able to feel it. No worries, just give us a few minutes. We would be able to share it. But if you're on this call, you want to ensure that you get your email addresses there, because that's the only way you can guarantee an application fee waiver that is being offered for this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Olamide. It's wonderful to be here, and we're very, very excited about being here. And my name is Julie Sadwick. I'm the Director of Admissions and EDI Special Projects here at Simon. I've been at Simon for almost 18 years, and obviously, as you can tell, I love it, and you'll find out why. But this is not about me. I'm very, very excited to be joined by two of the most incredible people, Tomilola and Stella. Tomi just graduated from our program, it actually just a couple of months ago. And then Stella just started our program, so I'll let them introduce themselves. Okay, Tomi, do you want to start?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Tomilola, but feel free to call me Tomi. Definitely from Lagos, Nigeria. And as Julie mentioned, I just graduated from Simon with concentrations in marketing and strategy. Before coming to Simon, I worked in financial services in Lagos, so specifically wealth management for about 9 years. And now that I've graduated, I'm pivoting my career into corporate strategy. So I recently just moved to Minneapolis in the Midwest a few weeks ago to start at Cargill, which is a food and agriculture manufacturing company. So I will be here in corporate strategy. So if anyone is interested in consulting in any way, shape, or form, feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Tomi. My name is Stella. I'm a first-year MBA. I just got to Simon literally 3 weeks ago, and I'm already wrapping up pre-fall. If anyone's interested in hearing about my journey in terms of what it took to get me to Simon, please feel free to hit me up. I'll be very honest about the process. Prior to Simon, I was working in the nonprofit sector based in Iraq. Before that, I was based in the Congo. So I have a lot of experience in the Middle East and Africa before I decided to pursue my MBA. So far, it's been an incredibly thrilling experience, but also a really rigorous program. I'm enjoying it all the same and happy to meet everyone who's just starting this journey, because it feels unreal that I'm on the other side of the screen. And I was telling Julie and Tomi, I can remember it like it was yesterday when I was logging in and seeing the Simon logo behind other people. I can't believe that's me now. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. And now you're on the other side. Yay. And hopefully many on the call will be as well. And I'm going to brag just a bit about Tomi. Tomi was our graduate business council president. So she was the student president of the entire school. And that was a pretty major role. So she's done an incredible job at Simon and has done so much to help us to move forward through some really challenging times, in our country and in the world. And so I just had to brag about her for a bit because she's just quite amazing. And Stella's going to be amazing too. So I'm excited about her journey coming up as well. So as you will soon learn, I can talk a lot, but I'm going to have Tomi and Stella hold me accountable and chime in when they need to. I have quite a presentation to share, and we will leave time at the end for you to ask us questions. So let me just pull up okay, hopefully you can see that. Okay, so you guys can see that, right? Just want to make sure. Okay, great. Okay, this is the Simon Business School, University of Rochester. Please bear with me. I won't be able to see the chat. So Tomi and Stella, feel free to chime in and talk over me if you need to. Okay. All right, so here are some main reasons why why our students typically choose our school. We are one of the top ranked programs in the world, and I will share the rankings with you shortly. Incredibly collaborative in nature. We obviously try to choose candidates that will be much more collaborative than competitive. We would, we're a smaller program, and we're a smaller program intentionally because we feel the value of a program comes from learning from others around you. It's not just learning from the professors, but it's learning from everyone that you're in the classroom with. We're also very strong in terms of quant and analytics. And we are the first school to provide a STEM designated MBA, and we'll talk about that shortly as well. Globally diverse student body, we'll talk about that. Again, close-knit community, and that comes from being a smaller school, small student to teacher, teacher to student ratio, which is 5 to 1. And most of our students, if not all students each year who are asking for scholarship, do receive some level of funding. It's a merit-based scholarship opportunity, and lots of opportunities to develop leadership skills as well. So EDI, it stands for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. You're going to hear a lot about that, especially within the U.S. business school realm, and sometimes it's called DEI. We put more of the emphasis on the equity side of that. We want to make sure that there is equity in terms of everything that we do, and all that is supported by all of our students. We want to make sure that everything is equitable. Now, when we talk about that, a lot of times it's important for us as a school to be partners of many different organizations around the world, and including this one. This is our first time that we're talking to this organization. I'm so excited to hopefully be one of those schools on the page as a partner school coming up. And but you'll see some of the other school organizations that you may have seen as you've been navigating the process of researching business schools. But Consortium for Graduate Study and Management, Forte is an organization for women in business, and MLT, Management Leadership for Tomorrow, Access, which is Admit Me Access, Prospanica, Reaching Out is an organization that is devoted to LGBTQ+. Teach for America, TWIGO, and Yellow Ribbon. So please note that these organizations, some of them do require you to be a U.S. permanent resident or U.S. citizen. So not all of them you may be eligible for, but I will say Forte is one that, Forte, Reaching Out, as well as Access are typically the ones that anyone from around the world can join. We are very proud to be the #2 most diverse school, according to a World News report. That is a designation that ranks, it accounts for historically underrepresented U.S. minority students. And so that is how we receive that ranking, and it's something that we had focused on for many years. It's not something that's new for us. It's not something that, we just check a box. It's something that we have intentionally been working on for so many years. And we also, it's very important to us that we do enroll a wide range of students from all across the world, not just the US, but many different countries. And so we'll go into that in just a moment. Just quickly, here are the school rankings. So as you'll see, we are one of the top ranked schools in the world. Very proud of that. And something that you should absolutely be mindful of, especially as an international student, is that your return on investment should be incredibly strong. So you can't get higher than #1, so and we'll talk about that in just a moment, but we're proud of the fact that we provide an incredible amount of scholarships to everyone that's incoming to the program. And it's very equal with domestic and international students. So there's no preference given to domestic students. This is something that we equally look at candidates from across the board. There's, no distinguishing between where we're going to have to enroll, 90% domestic. That's not true. We actually highly value our students from across the world as well.
Julie, I wanted to interrupt you a little bit about the ROI, because I think that's something that's like super important when you're searching for a B school. I assume we have like people from different African nations, but if you're also from Nigeria, like about the exchange rates and the value of the Naira when you're looking at paying school fees in dollars. And like Julie said, Simon is one of those schools who offers very generous merit scholarships, but even putting the scholarships aside, when you just look at your total cost of attendance and you look at what your employment, would I say like possibilities are, depending on what you want to go into post B school, it's one of those things that you can compare and see that it's easy if at any point in time you do need to take out a loan. The payback period is just amazing. So just wanted to mention like the ROI, I don't think a lot of people talk about it. Like we obviously look at rankings and everything else that's very important for school, but like the money bit is also super important when you're just looking at like the total package of school versus like your employment, like I said, like the employment possibilities and salaries after school. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you for emphasizing this. That's wonderful. And, they don't want to hear from me the whole time. So please feel free to chime in. I promise this is wonderful. So, okay. All right. So women on the call, this is important as well, because I would say not all business schools will focus on this as making this an emphasis in terms of helping their female candidates that are in the program to get to the right pay level. We help our students to negotiate for a very high salary, competitive, with or above men. So this is something that's important to us, and a lot of schools do not focus on that. And so we're proud of where we stand in terms of helping to close that pay gap. And I know that we see it all across the world, but here at Simon, we're focused on helping our women to get to that point where they should be, they deserve to be. So, okay, here's our class profile from last year. We're still finalizing the class profile from this year, Stella's class. So we'll have that soon online. But last year's class was 112 students. As you'll see, a very large percentage of those students are international, and they were represented by 27 countries, which is incredible for the size of our program. And again, that's intentional. We do try to give you as much diversity as possible in terms of, backgrounds, ethnicity, countries of origin, even, backgrounds in terms of work history. So learning from others that come from a variety of different industries and not just business backgrounds. And you'll see 43% women. We're even higher this year in Stella's class. I think we're almost at 50%. I think it's 48 or 49%. You'll see the average years of work experience typically calculated by when you graduate from your bachelor program to when you start our program. That's how the years of work experience is calculated. And then the average GPA that's out of a 4.0 scale, you do not need to worry about self-calculating or even getting a WES evaluation. That is not necessary at Simon. We know how to evaluate your transcripts even on a 5 or a 10-point scale. So please don't worry about that. You'll see our average GMAT and GRE middle 80% for both, and our selectivity rate. And the selectivity rate for this year, I believe, is at 13 or 14%, Stella's class. So it has gone down even more competitive. We do get many applications from around the world. And so it has become more and more challenging to get into Simon, but still opportunities if you apply early.
Julie, I want to chime in a little bit over there, just so I can give an overview of my class at the moment.
Sure.
So when I was applying to Simon, I was, like I said, on the other side of the screen and hearing how diverse the program is and how everyone's from everywhere. Which reminds me, in my introduction, I forgot to say that I'm from Kenya. So I applied to get into the program as an international student. It's my first time in the US. So all this is very new to me. But throughout the process, everyone was really supportive in terms of reaching out, making sure that I had the right information. The GMAT and the GRE are not mandatory. So Simon has waivers if you don't want to take the test. I took the GRE. So if there's anyone out there who wants to know about my experience, I'm happy to talk about it. And then just specifically talking about my class, it's almost 50-50, 50% domestic, 50% international. And because of that, we have students from all over the world, not only predominantly the States or Europe. I have classmates from all over. So it's been quite an enriching experience, and I just got here. So yeah, over to you, Julie.
I love it. Thank you. Thanks for providing that perspective as well. And Stella's just getting through her, as she just mentioned, her pre-fall term. So she's just gotten through orientation, and there's a few other new things that she's been going through. It's been amazing, and introduced to her team that she's working with throughout the first year of the program. Okay, so Simon, we take an approach where we want to make sure that this is an amazing experience for you. It's not just about the classes and the curriculum, and it's about so much more than that. So not just academics, but we also focus on your career search and helping to develop you in that sense, as well as extracurricular and co-curricular activities. When we talk about, supporting you through this journey of 2 years, and it is a 2-year program. I know many people are looking at, European schools, which are 1-year programs, but there's a huge value in a 2-year program versus a 1-year. A 2-year allows you to, you get through more classes, so more content in terms of the academics, but you have that opportunity to seek an internship, and the internship is a required portion of the 2-year program. So you do have an internship between those 2 years, which is a paid internship at an MBA salary level, which hopefully leads to a full-time offer, or it leads to the fact that you may not, then you realize, oh, this is actually not what I really want to do. So I'm gonna change my seeking, what I'm trying to do in the second year, and I'm gonna re-seek something completely different, or something that's a little bit different, or a different company. So this really does not pigeonhole you into a sector that you have to stay with, for a long time. The internship is incredibly valuable, because a lot of times people come back from the internship and they're like, oh, I didn't love that, so I just think I want to try something new. So that's a great opportunity, and it helps to support you financially in the second year if that's something that you need as well. So, getting that salary is really helpful. But we do have a career team that is incredible, that supports you through the process. I'll talk about that in just a moment. And then the co-curricular activities, which we will also talk about. So,
and Julie, another benefit of having the opportunity to do the internship is that it makes sure that you have North American experience on your resume. I think that's something, again, not a lot of people maybe think through that, but there are some companies who, yes, they might be global, but they want someone who has maybe just at least worked a little bit in North America. So you're talking about America and Canada, and having even those 3 months, I think it's like super helpful knowing that that's the last place that you worked. So big supporter of doing the full-time MBA program, like that has the internship component. So.
Thank you. And that's such a great point. And Tomi, that actually leads really well into this slide, because I know that you were a big part of restructuring a bit of the curriculum while you were the president. Did you want to talk a little bit about that, about this slide right here?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about this. So as you see, like most MBA programs, but certainly also at Simon, the first year is typically more structured to where you have kind of like your core classes. I always talk about the MBA as like a program that just makes sure that you understand a little bit about every aspect of business. So even if you're not going to specialize, say, in operations or like in marketing, if you're having, as a manager, if you're having a conversation with somebody in the operations department, you can understand their language and know how to make these decisions that would, add value to your company. So Simon does the same thing where, from pre-fall, like Stella is about to round up, we want to make sure that even before classes start, you're already getting that foundational knowledge, because some recruiting does happen even before classes start, and that's not, there's going to be recruiting all through, but you want to be prepared when you're having those coffee chats or like interviews. Something new that's happening this year is one of the classes, structured problem solving, which is very important, not just for people going into consulting, but really all fields. You'll notice that like if you're doing interviews for marketing, product management, there's already a lot of like case studies that already apply. And so from feedback from students, working with the professors were able to move the structured problem solving into pre-fall, so that if you're starting to have any of those interviews or even coffee chats where you need to show your ability to go through a case, then you already have those like foundational skills. So that's one of the biggest things that has happened here. But leads me just to another point, which I love about Simon, is like they listen, like the school listens. And I'm not saying this because I was like GBC president or anything, but the school truly listens, because ultimately it's like, how do we make sure that you're being set up for success in order to achieve the goals that you've set up for yourself post B school. But yeah, that's really just the gist of this page. You'll see that all the core classes pretty much cover everything that you will need as a someone that has an MBA, and get really in depth into everything, yeah, that you need. So hope that covers what you were, yeah, Julie,
Thank
but
you.
happy to answer more questions about that as well.
Thank you. Go ahead, Stella.
Just to add to what you've said, Tommy, I remember when I was starting my B school journey, and I was going through, I attended very many webinars, Simon included, of course. And part of, I guess, the one issue I had running at the back of my mind was I needed to have a very clearly defined path in terms of, okay, I'll get into the MBA program. This is going to be my concentration. This is what I'm going to major in. And I remember feeling very anxious about that entire process because I wasn't really clear on what my path would look like. So for anyone who's wondering out there, when you're getting into the program, you can, it's okay to have an idea of where you want to end up, what you want to do. But once you get to Simon, there's a very high possibility that you will find interest in other things. So you may start off maybe thinking you want to major in marketing, but then you get here and realize, oh, okay, consulting is actually pretty interesting, pricing is pretty interesting, and that sort of defines what kind of coursework you choose to take. And the flexibility of that is part of the excitement in the process. So you don't need to have all the answers to start.
Such a great point, and it's so true. I mean, we do so much onboarding with our incoming students that we introduce students to a lot of different jobs, job functions, industries. You may have an idea of what you want to do, as Stella said, but so many times a candidate will change their mind as they're enrolling in the program, because we do ask students to, well, actually, we'll go into this in just a minute, to choose a specialization. And the specializations are, the coursework under that specialization is designed to pivot you into that industry. But then again, like I said, if you go into that internship between the 2 years and you decide that's not what I want, you can then switch your trajectory and your specialization and go into something different in the second year. So there is flexibility there, but we do want to make sure that you're intentional about, being thoughtful about which industry you want to go into. And we actually do help you. So don't worry too much right now. Do the best you can on trying to decide what you want to do, but we'll give you lots more information if you are an enrolling student. And just wanted to mention, we are on a mini semester system. So the pre-fall is 5-week term, and then each other semester is going to be 7 weeks in duration. So fall A is 7 weeks, fall B is 7 weeks, and then you come back after January, and spring A is 7 weeks, and then spring B is 7 weeks, and then the summer is reserved for your internship. So it is incredibly intense. It's a lot. Stella's going to have a limited time to talk to anyone in the next year, so she knows this. She's been told this many times. Tommy can tell you. But then the second year of the program, so Tommy just decided to, take on a major role and fill up all sorts of time with that presidency role. So Stella, no pressure, but I think Stella is also a future president, in my opinion, but that's just me.
Thank you, Julie. I feel like this is one thing, you get into the program not knowing how rigorous it's going to be. I was told how rigorous it was going to be, but I guess I downplayed it. 4 weeks in, it's intense.
Yeah. It is. It's intense, yes.
But there is a lot of support. I will say that. So once you get to Simon, there's so much support that you receive. Actually, before you get to Simon, even with the recruiting cycle, I was getting invitations 4 interviews before I even arrived in the US. So there is a lot of support from Simon in general.
And that's a very good problem to have, right, Stella? Yep, good problem to have. Okay, so specializations that I was just talking about, we have the main areas are finance, marketing, consulting. We also have a fourth that we don't usually put on here, and that's general management. And that's for those that want to go into something a little bit different. But the main areas that I think most candidates that enroll in the program will go through is finance, marketing, and consulting. And in each of those areas, you can get a STEM designated MBA. So there's no distinction between one or another, and we'll talk about that in just a moment as well. So we ideally would like you to choose a specialization. Like I said, those courses are designed to help pivot you into your career of interest. And then for the minors are great because they're comprised of 4 courses each. So many times students will graduate from Simon with multiple minors. So it's great. If there's another area that you really want to focus on. And I forgot to mention, in the first year of the program, unique to Simon, is you have the opportunity to take up to 4 elective courses as well, which is something that most schools, if not all, do not do. So we do that intentionally because we really want you to have content to be able to talk about as you're interviewing with companies. And we also want you to perform really well in your internship between the 2 years. So if you have some of those courses under your belt that you can really help to hopefully get that full-time offer from the internship. STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. That is, again, we were the very first school to do this, and we were able to do this for our international students. That was the main reason why we did it, is to help our international students to stand out in the recruiting pool. It allows you to stay in the US for up to 3 years on your F1. You have multiple chances to go for your H-1B visa, your lottery. And so this is an amazing opportunity for international students. So you don't have to stay in the US for just 1 year. We will help you to find a job that is a STEM designated job and allow you to stay in the US for 3 years. And it's amazing because, it doesn't cost you anything extra financially, and it also doesn't cost you anything extra with time. This is incorporated into Simon. 50% of your coursework that you take has to be in STEM designated courses, which most of our courses at this point are STEM courses. So you really don't have to worry about that. You would work with an academic advisor to ensure that you meet those metrics. So it's just absolutely wonderful. It really does help you to kind of find that relief. It also helps the employer because they get you for not just 1 year. It allows them to keep you for at least 3, and hopefully then you'll get the H-1B. But it's such a humongous benefit to you and the employer. And so employers are finding that they just absolutely love students that have the STEM designation.
Yeah, Julie, I'm happy that you brought that up because, again, as international students going through the H-1B process, we know it feels like a game of luck. It's not, being selected in the H-1B lottery is not as a result of how, nice your application looks or how good your company packaged the application. It's really just, it is what it is. And so having the possibility to extend your OPT to 3 years gives both you and the employer just a lot of relief, knowing that even if you're not selected in the first lottery, then there's at least 2 or even 3, if not 4 more times when you can go through the lottery, because I think sometimes on some years, USCIS, I think that's the name of, United States Citizenship Immigration Services. Yeah, USCIS does the 2 draws, especially for master's students, but that's just another thing to remind yourself. And like Julie said, achieving STEM designation at Simon is pretty easy because your core classes, I want to say 80% of your core classes are already STEM. So it's you might as well just do it and have that all the extra benefits academic wise, but also immigration wise on your side.
That's great. Thank you. And so we also found once we launched it, and you're right, Tomi, I think when we launched it, there was about 50% of the core classes were STEM. Now we're up to about 80%. And so it's it's almost impossible to leave Simon without a STEM designation. And so we found that even our domestic students love it because it does allow an additional credential beyond just the MBA. So it signals to employers that you really know what you're talking about when you're evaluating data, and you're able to truly articulate and make better business decisions. And you're helping to communicate those decisions to your teams that may not understand it or may not understand data in the way that you do. So it's pretty incredible. It's valuable in so many different ways. And I know we have limited time, so I'm going to talk really fast because I've got several more slides to get through. This is obviously a very, very important slide for you to see as well. We do place very, very well. I want you to make note, obviously, of the compensation. And, you know, this is last 2022's class. You'll see this class, Tomi's class that just graduated. The data from that class is not going to be available until the very end of this year. So it takes a while to calculate everything and to get all of the data together. So you'll see that in the next few months on our website. But those stats speak for themselves. I don't think I have to, you know, talk about them, but I'm very proud to work at Simon, at a school that truly cares about making sure that you are successful in placing. And it's a partnership. I mean, we're not going to guarantee you a job. We will provide you with a significant amount of resources, and we will do a ton to help support you and give you all the tools that you need to help you to secure a job. But it's a lot of networking, and you're going to hear that a lot as you're navigating this recruiting process. It's networking. There, you have to network in the US, and sometimes depending on the country that you're coming from. I mean, even myself, I'm from the US, but a networking opportunity is not something that I'm overly comfortable with. But you have to learn how to be able to talk with people and just learn about their roles. And it's really just about scheduling mini chats and conversing with people. We have an amazing alumni support system. So we have alums that support our students. There are recruiters that just are obsessed with Simon. So you have recruiters that come to Simon or host virtual events, on-campus events. Our alums will come as well. So there are great opportunities, but it's a partnership between the Career Center and the student. And so if they work well together, and if you're committed to ensuring that you get a job, and most international students are, because you have a lot riding on this, you're going to be successful, and it takes time, but it's great. So we do not place just in the Northeast. We don't place in Rochester. We will place you, anywhere in the US that you want to go. Some people do have a preference that they go to certain areas of the country, and we will help to support you in getting to those other areas. But you'll see, I mean, we place very well in tech. So on the West Coast, we have lots of resources on the West Coast, lots of partnerships, but almost anywhere. And it also depends on your industry, what opportunities there are. I would say, try to be open and flexible as much as you can initially. And then, once you're done with the internship and you have some experience on your belt in the US, then, you do have a little bit more ability to kind of hone in on certain areas or locations. These are just a sample of the hiring companies that will come to Simon. But again, this is just a sampling. You'll see a larger portion of these online, and you'll see a much broader list online. So experiential learning, as I mentioned, is incredibly important at Simon. We do have consulting project course that is part of your, your specialization that you're going into will be attributed to this practicum. We also have Simon Vision Consulting. That's an opportunity for you to opt in if you want to. It's just optional. But if you wanted to gain additional practical experience, you can opt into this Simon Vision Consulting Club and work with local and regional, or sometimes they're actually companies that are worldwide, but startup companies or companies that can't afford to hire larger consulting companies, and they get Simon students to be able to work on projects. So you're actually working directly with companies on different projects. So say, for instance, you're going into, a finance role, but you really want to build your skills in marketing. You could pick a marketing project and be able to work on that project to build your skills working directly with the company. And you'll have guidance from a team of supporters of full-time staff members. We also sometimes have our faculty are involved in some of these projects as well. So we're very proud to be able to offer that. And I want to focus on the right-hand side here. We have multiple countries that we have international immersions. And I don't know if that's something that will interest you. Sometimes we do have international students who would like to travel a little bit as they're getting into the program. So you could do up to 4 of these during your 2 years of the program if you wanted to. They are during the breaks. They are credit bearing if you want them to be. And it's a wonderful chance to be gone for about 10 to 12 days in duration and travel with a group of your peers or peers from the school, but are in different programs. And so India, Israel is focused on startups and entrepreneurship. Singapore, I believe, was finance. That just happened this past year for the first time. South Africa has happened a couple of times, will happen this year. And that's, I don't know if that one's credit bearing. I think it was a marketing one. I'm not positive. And then Switzerland is obviously finance as well. But you may see those countries change just a little bit, and we may be adding additional countries as well. So our students will also, a way to enhance your own personal brand is by competing in case competitions. And so this allows you to compete against students from other schools. Sometimes they're held and they're competitions that are at other peer schools or other schools in the US, or they're hosted by companies. So it's a great way for you to compete for money. A lot of times you are competing for money. You could also gain exposure to try to get yourself a job through that exposure. So it does give you that opportunity. And we do have lots of staff that supports our students that want to do case competitions. So there's students that have done multiple case competitions. So that's another way to kind of add more to your plate, but it really is beneficial. It helps you with your presentation skills as well. So, oh, Stella loves this slide. She likes to talk about what she just went through in her class. And actually our master's classes just went through that, I think, today. So Habitat for Humanity is our students will go and help frame a house or 2 houses, depending on the year. That helps to support our local community. They meet the families that will move into this house. And so it's a great way to bond with your peers. And so she just went through that with her class. Tomi went through that with her class a couple of years ago. And, it's just an amazing way to really help support the local community, like I said. But there's many, many different service projects. We help to really put a lot of effort into the Rochester community. And you'll also see the clubs and activities there. One of the clubs that helps to support a lot of local efforts is the Simon Volunteers Club. But, that's just a smattering of the clubs that we have, but we have more than 30 active social, academic, professional clubs, sporting clubs. There's a club or many more for everyone. You usually have to kind of figure out, okay, what's most important to me, because most students want to do them all. So anything that either of you want to add to that?
I really enjoyed my Habitat for Humanity Day. We left Simon in the morning, and then I think it was a 14-minute drive. I can't really remember.
Yeah.
And then we got there and spent the whole day building a house. And at the end, you get to sign whatever you want for the new family, and then they transport it to where it's supposed to end up. It was such an incredibly enriching experience, giving back to the community, but also getting to know my classmates a bit more, because you're with these people for 2 years. Simon is a small enough program that I already know everyone in my class by their first names. I'm now working up to being able to remember where everyone is from, because everyone's from somewhere different. Even the domestic students are all from different parts of the US. So
Yeah.
It's an incredibly enriching experience.
Good. Thank you. It was a hot day. Okay, I know we're running out of time and I want to be respectful of everyone that may have questions. But you know, I'm just going to quickly, you know, Food Link, we have other collaborations, which unfortunately I won't be able to go into, but there's a couple of pictures for you to see. You know, more community impact. We have opportunities to mentor local students, a 6th grade classroom in the Rochester City School District. Here's more on the vision consulting projects. Sorry that I'm rushing through this. I just really want to make sure that you have an opportunity to ask questions. We do have a Simon Venture Fund. It's real money that students manage to help support. And we do have a Shark Tank like opportunity, which is fun. Our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Center of Excellence, which is a very big part of our program as well. And it's something that I'm highly involved with in my role, very happily so. Rochester, New York is on the western side of New York State. So I do want to make sure that you know that we are not at the level of cost that's New York City. We are not. It's much less. You can actually get a 1-bedroom apartment, a very nice 1-bedroom apartment for about $900. Correct me if I'm wrong, Stella and Tommy, but and that has just increased a little bit through the pandemic. We are a pretty great place to live because it takes only, I mean, we're in a smaller city, but it is a city and it's not a tiny little place in the middle of nowhere. There is a lot to do and it's an amazingly beautiful region so that you can hike and bike, and we have all 4 seasons, and yes, we have snow, but you learn to embrace it. But again, it's an amazing place to live while you're learning and while you're in a 2-year MBA program, and then you go and go elsewhere. I mean, that's something that you really want to think about is you don't want to go somewhere where it's going to cost you a ton of money for your living expenses. It's a huge part that you would be adding on to if you are paying $2,000 a month for just an apartment somewhere. That makes no sense. So, you know, I won't rehash everything that you can already read on this page, but I will tell you that that's a big part of your decision making should be finding some place that's going to be real, you know, reasonable in terms of living. We have an airport 5 minutes from the campus. It's an easy airport to get in and out of, and it's centrally located. Rochester is, so it's easy to get to New York City, Boston, Pittsburgh, Toronto, you know, DC, you know, all sorts of different places. It's very, very easy to get to. Scholarships and financial aid. One thing I want to highlight here is we do have a non-US co-signer loan program for international students. So anything that we do not, that doesn't cover in terms of your merit-based scholarship, say for instance, you get 50% scholarship. The remaining balance of 50%, you can use that loan non-US co-signer loan program to cover the remaining balance of tuition. And on average, I will tell you, students will pay that loan back within 2 to 3 years. We did the calculation, 2 to 3 years after graduating, students will pay that back and they're done with their loans. So it's an amazing way to help support you financially and coming into the program. So the only thing that you need to do in terms of proving funding upon coming into the program for your F1 visa is the living expenses for 1 year. So that's the only thing that you have to focus on proving as you're going through that I-20 process. Okay. And if you want a one-on-one conversation with me, just use that QR code right there and schedule some time. So I am traveling a little bit, so you may have to wait just a few weeks or a couple of weeks to get on my calendar, but please go ahead and use that if you're interested, and I'd be happy to talk about your personal profile. Okay, I'll leave that on there for a bit and open it up for questions.
Julie,
Thank
there's
you
one
so much.
question in the chat.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes,
Yeah.
Olamide, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Julie. I think there are probably like a few questions, but before we touch on the questions, thank you once again, Julie, thank you, Stella, thank you, Tommy. I wondered if you quickly just talked about like if you're submitting an application. I know someone mentioned earlier, there is an opportunity to either not write the GRE or GMAT or get a waiver. These are some of the questions that might come up, but it would also be good to just quickly talk about it. If you're submitting your application, how many essays are you filling? And then one additional question is, we've gotten a lot of questions from our community members as to what the affirmative action actually does mean for recruiting for every business school. And I know that every school, such as like Simon, would have their idea of what it would be mean for them and how it doesn't really affect recruiting. So it would be great if you can sort of touch on this before we get to the other questions that we have below.
Yes. I'm glad that was brought up. I mean, it's obviously something that we are still trying to navigate and work with, you know, the lawyers and the council to find out, you know, what that actually means. But when it comes, we are race neutral. So I will tell you that right now, we are race neutral. We are actively recruiting students from around the world, from Africa, from every country, from every state in the US. You know, and I think it's about you and your storytelling. Tell us about your background. We want to know who you are. We are trying to get a diversity of thought in the classroom. I mean, nothing really will change in terms of the way that we enroll students, because it's about your personal story and who you are. It's about getting as much diversity in the classroom. Like I said, that the concept diversity means a multitude of different things. And so we are looking at many different things when it comes to enrolling a class that's diverse. It's not just race. So the affirmative action decision is based on race. And that is something that you will, you know, you'll obviously enter that in the application, but the admissions committee will never see race when they're evaluating a candidate for admission. So it's not going to really change what we do at Simon, because we do our best to try to get to know the candidate in full. So it's not about, you know, it's not about enrolling a particular race and amount of people within that race. So I hope that makes sense. When we talk about the test waiver, so yes, we something that makes me very, very happy is that, you know, through the pandemic has been very challenging, of course, but what we had to do as schools was take away the requirement of the test because no one could take it for that first year. So what that allowed us to do was we had to enroll a class that really didn't have test scores. Many of them didn't. So it allowed us to determine, okay, those candidates that didn't have test scores, how well did they do? And were we able to assess their potential within the classroom? And in particular, a very rigorous program like Simon without the test score. And we determined that, yes, we were able to determine that candidates, if we can take a look at their transcripts and if they did well in their you know, quant courses, or if somebody needs additional quant experience or exposure before they come into the program, that may be a requirement of admission, is that we have ways to help enhance somebody's quantitative ability and math ability before they come in. So if you are planning to apply with a test score, please make sure that it's within the 80 percentile range or above. If you don't have a test score, I love the fact that we are allowing for someone to opt out of a test score, because I think it's expensive, and it's also expensive in terms of time. So not everyone has the means to be able to do that, but there's a lot of candidates that are amazing that can't afford to take a test. So if you are planning to submit an application without a test score, my suggestion though is apply as early as you can. Our application will open later this month. Our first application deadline is October 15th, but we're on a rolling admission basis. So please try to submit your application, certainly no later than really January 5th would be my suggestion, without a test score, because we can't enroll an entire class without test scores, just because, you know, being a highly ranked school, we still have to submit data. So we can't enroll an entire class without test scores. So in order to be as competitive as possible, apply early or apply with a test score. So I hope that helps. I know I can talk too much. I talk too much. And what else?
That helps. I see a question here about the finance placement data on the employment report. And Nathan is asking, what should some of you who consider going into private equity post MBA expect in terms of support? So I want to kind of just maybe talk about this a little bit, is when you're looking at placing in terms of your employment, you are looking either like functionally, and then you're looking by industry. And so we do have a few finance, like in the finance industry, but then you could have finance roles in different industries. So we can talk like a little bit more about that, Nathan, but I'm also happy to connect you with my one of my classmates who was the president of the Simon School Venture Fund. And like Julie mentioned, like, so like the venture fund, you can pretty much be on the fund as an analyst. There's different roles on there, but in terms of like just investing, looking at the businesses to invest in, you go through the whole process of like of analyzing the business, and that's stuff that you can put on your resume. It's real money. There's a board that oversees it, not just of like professors, but also of like some of our alumni who are doing pretty amazing things in PE and the VC world. So that's something, a huge thing that you can take advantage of, and you can start getting participated in the venture fund, I think as early as like by your first year. We also have a Meliora fund as well. So there's a couple of different fund options that if you wanted to really just dig into building like those skills, you can. And then just looking at like people that have placed really just in finance roles. I know friends, I mean, this particular person I'm talking about is currently a senior financial analyst at Juniper Networks. There's people at like Eli Lilly. So that's something that you kind of have to like think about. So am I looking for like finance in the finance industry, or like finance in a different industry? But again, happy to connect you with my classmate Raghav if you want to talk more about like just PE and VC. So I hope that answers your question, Nathan. And I see Victor's hand up, so I'm going to go for that, and then we can come back to the chat.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Yeah, so I wanted to find out, as a reapplicant, perhaps someone who had offered the previous academic year, but looking at the fact that in case he should reapply, he can get a better offer, what should this reapplicant look out for? What should reapplicants look out for this time around in case they want to still consider applying for Simon Business School?
Hi, Victor. Yes, I mean, it's very difficult for us to tell you. I mean, it could have been the timing of when you submitted the application. It could have just been, you applied and you may have been a finalist that they wanted to enroll. They just didn't have enough spots, or your candidacy completely compared equally to others, but maybe somebody else had a test score, and so they had a high test score, and so that will trump if other things, all else is equal, and we have someone with a test score and someone without. That is the risk that you take by not submitting a test score that's a test score. And I'm just talking generally. I don't know about your own specific situation, but I would say definitely apply early. Take a look at, there are going to be a few minor changes in our application, and there are going to be some changes in the essays. So take a look at that. We are looking for a little bit different information from everyone this year. It could have also been that maybe your career goals didn't align with what Simon, how well we place in that area. Those are things that we look at as well. So we're looking at how well you're going to do within the classroom, within the student body, if you're going to be a supportive teammate and a supportive peer, but we're also looking at how well you're going to, land a job in the US. And so we want to make sure that we are the right fit for you in terms of the school that can provide that support in terms of your career goals. So that may be another thing. So, take a look at what we do offer in terms of our webinars. And I know we're going on over time, so I don't.
Very well noted. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Julie, I
Lamia,
think
we're
we
okay?
do have 20 or so more minutes, so we're
Okay,
actually
good.
good on time. Yeah, you're perfect on time.
Whoa, amazing. Okay, that's great. What else? We can keep answering then. And clearly I can keep talking, but I think I want Tommy and Stella to talk, so.
I answered a couple of questions in the chat, but if anyone has a follow-up, just feel free to let us know.
Thanks, Stella.
I've got a question, please.
Yes. Christian?
Okay, so yeah, my name is Christian. My question is, how much of the scholarship is available? Can one get 100% scholarship?
Everyone does, Christian. Now that's, of course, everyone wants to. Some people do, but it is going to be, again, it's a merit-based scholarship opportunity. The scholarships typically range anywhere from 20% of tuition to 100%. So it really just depends on where your profile stands in comparison to everyone else who's applying and being admitted at the same time. So, you know, unfortunately, I can't tell you that 100% is going to be a definite. I have no idea. I mean, I also do not sit on the admissions committee any longer because that's a, you know, I've moved past that. I love this side of things. Let's recruit. So I am not going to be responsible for your scholarship. I'm just going to put that right out there, but apply early, apply with the very strongest application as possible. You'll go on our website. We're very transparent. We actually provide you with so much information to help you understand what we are looking for in candidates. But I will say, you know, as I said earlier, the selectivity rate is, you know, it's been very selective. So we pretty much finalize most of our international class by the second round at the very latest, if not the first round. So, you know, our yield rate from the first round admission offers for international candidates ends up being incredibly high. So apply as early as possible.
Thank you very much.
You're
I'm
welcome.
seeing a couple of, I think people want maybe a little bit of clarification about this, like having a test score, not having a test score, how does that affect me? I'm going to be honest and say it doesn't affect you at all. I know it might sound like, you know, just stuff that you hear a lot of schools saying where we consider, well, I'm saying we, like Simon, but, you know, Simon considers candidates very holistically. I'm going to be very upfront. I'm not the, like, one of those, like, strongest people academically in terms of like, oh, I got a 4.0 or da 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 da. And that was something that I was concerned about really applying to Simon. I knew I wanted to challenge myself analytically. I did put in a GRE score. It was in the 80 percentile range, but I'm going to be honest, it probably was in the low of that 80 percentile range. But just being upfront and saying, hey, this is who I am as a candidate, this is what I've done, this is why I'm applying here, this is how I want to challenge myself, and this is how I know that Simon can be the best partner for me in order to achieve my post-MBA goals. I think all of that was considered, you know, if not, I wouldn't be sitting here talking as a graduate. So I will say, if you have the ability, if you have the time to put in a test, do it. If you don't, make sure that your entire story is honestly solid. Like, I think sometimes people really focus on academics and test scores and forget to put themselves forward in, you know, explaining who are you, what are you bringing to the community, how do you, like, how do the Simon values align with yours, just really everything about you. Because don't forget that the ADCOM, so the admission committee, outside of maybe like your video essays, which I'm not sure if they're still optional, but if they're optional, make sure you do the video essay. But outside of those things, they don't get that opportunity to interact with you really like one-on-one. And so you want to make sure that they're seeing beyond who you are as I hope this English is correct, but like an academic person. So they want to see like, what type of like vibe are you bringing to the community? How do you care about like your classmates? How are you going to collaborate? How are you going to be a team player? And so I would say, don't let the test scores, like getting a waiver, not getting a waiver. I have a ton of classmates who didn't submit tests, who got admitted, who had very generous scholarship offers. So don't let that be something that like stops you from like, can I get a waiver? Can't I? If there's anyone like here, like people are probably applying when you're doing your full-time job. So applying in itself is a full-time job. So if you do have the time to do it, amazing, do it. If you feel like you don't, just make sure to put your entire story forward. So I hope that helps, and no one is still like, just like wary about test scores versus not. I'm going to quickly address this. Take Victor's question. Video essays, I think I saw a question about that real quick. Video essays, I would say, be yourself. The questions can be very like random. It can be a mix of like just something like, what would you do on, I don't know, like a rainy day? That's a very random question. But I would say be yourself. Take as many opportunities as you need to practice. Smile. But the whole point of the video essay is just being able to put a face beside someone who's written all these things. Is like, what type of personality are we seeing? What type of energy are you bringing? I'm nervous, whether or not you believe it. I'm more introverted. Things like this, like give me kind of a little bit of anxiety. So I took tons of time to just like practice my video essay. But I would say Simon is genuinely interested in getting to know who you are, not who you think not who like just like a very, I don't know, fancy schmancy person, but they really just want to understand like who's here in our community, who is interested in coming here. I'm going to stop there so I don't like overbeat the subject. But again, hope that's helpful. I'll keep looking through the chat, but Victor, I see your hand up as well.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that, Tommy, after Victor answers or asks his question.
Okay, so I'm here again. I would also want to know whether there is any added advantage on the side of recommenders using the letter of recommendation platform and the normal written recommendation letters. There is,
Yeah.
I think there is a format that schools use, a widely accepted format that schools use for their recommendation. And I think Simon too accepts that kind of recommendation option. So I want to find out if that option has any added advantage over the normal recommendation letters the recommenders sent.
That's a great question, and it's one that we do not require. So we removed the requirement of recommendation letters a few years ago, and there's a very good reason for that. They really held up the application from being a completed application for many candidates because recommenders were, just holding off or didn't have time. So we only require reference names and contact information. And that's only if the admissions committee has particular questions about your candidacy, will they reach out to them, but most of the time they will not. So we can get everything that we need mostly from the application and from talking to you during an interview. We actually do not want letters of recommendation. So that solves that issue for Simon. That is one thing you do not have to worry about. And I wanted to go back to what Tommy said. She's actually said it perfectly in terms of what we look for. And as somebody who did sit on the admissions committee for many years, I will tell you, for me personally, I think that the strongest candidates end up being those that have the best personalities, the personality that really wants the MBA, that you're focused on wanting to grow and just learn from everyone and come into the program and take advantage of everything that we have to offer from the school, but also learning and from others that are very different from you. We're going to be trying to assess that as well. You may not always agree with others that you're in the program with, but learning how to respect one another and differences of opinions makes you a better leader in the long term anyway. You're going to be in organizations where you're not always going to agree with each other, but we want to have people that are going to be strong teammates, are going to work well to try to come up with a project and finalize a project together. And so that's huge. So personality is huge. We also do look for multinational corporation experience. Some people do not have it, and that's okay, but other aspects of your candidacy should be compelling. You know, if you have also traveled outside of your country or studied outside of your country, we want to know that. Even if it's just been for leisure, we want to know, have you had exposure to anyone outside of your own country and culture? Those are things that we look for as well. Again, it truly is about, you know, you showcasing yourself, especially if you get to a point where you're invited for the interview. That's a huge thing. That's a big step in the right direction, because we don't interview everyone. So if you have been invited for an interview, please take that very seriously. That is your opportunity to show us who you are in terms of your personality. So we want to make sure that you're going to be likable, right? I mean, it's as basic as that. Are you likable, and are you somebody that your peers would want to work with? So show your personality. You can still be an introverted person and still show your personality and who you are, as Tomi was saying. Tomi is amazing. And so for her to be a president and still, you know, acknowledging that she's an introvert, she was an amazing leader. And so, you know, you don't have to be the most extroverted person in the world to be a strong leader. We just want to make sure that you are somebody that really cares about others and cares about learning and growing and making the most of the experience.
Julie, I want to speak to, I'm seeing a question from Eniola here about working on campus. And I know that Stella has spoken to that about I'm just going to read Stella's comment because it's really good, but I wanted to add on something to that. On-campus employment, as an international student, you can only work for a maximum of 20 hours a week. There are different employment opportunities on campus. Again, being that Simon is part of the greater University of Rochester, so it might not be just within Simon. It could be at the School of Medicine. It could be at just really anywhere. If you have the requisite skills for the job, you can take it, but that's only 20 hours a week. Now, what I'm going to say, you might not love it, but this is just very upfront. Try as much as possible not to get a job in your first year of the MBA. That sounds horrible, and I'm not saying it because I had like a ton of money just waiting for me to come. I had some savings, but again, we all know with the exchange rates, what we were earning like in Naira or like any other currency, maybe in 2013 is the amounts could be higher in our currency by like 2020, but just like lower in dollars. Your MBA is pretty much a full-time job. Stella can already attest to this. In your first year in 4A, there are big conferences, National Black MBA Career Conference that you're going to be prepping for that has over 200 employers that you want to be able to go and network with. You are doing coffee chats with alumni, you're doing coffee chats with recruiters, people in the different teams that you want to meet with, depending on what career field you want to go into. Those career cycles look different. If it's investment banking, chances are you're probably having to prep. I tried to, I did investment banking for a little bit, or like recruited for investment banking. You're studying for the interviews. So all that to say, you're networking, you're socializing, you're doing academics, and you're just trying to breathe in a new environment. There's so much that's going on. And you also do want to have some fun and like bond with your classmates. Chances are there's not going to be a lot of time for you to even have that 20 hours maximum to go and get an on-campus job. And even when you do that, I'm going to be very honest, 20 hours at minimum wage is not going to cover all your living expenses. Again, this doesn't sound, it might not be the response that you're looking for, but it's just the honest truth. Coming to an MBA, you're looking at it as investing in yourself. Some people do take loans for living expenses, and there's various resources out there that you can do. But that's why I mentioned earlier on that when you look at the ROI, Rochester being a cheaper city than your New York City or some other cities where B schools are placed at, you're thinking to yourself is like, okay, what's my budget going to be? That internship is going to be very helpful, and I'm going to be very transparent here. You can get everything from some internships, I think average could offer like $10,000. Obviously that's taxed, but it's still something that would be helpful for your second year. So all that to say, don't bank on the on-campus job in helping you get all your living expenses together, and don't be afraid. This is personal opinion. don't be afraid of having to take a loan, maybe to finance some living expenses if you need to. Obviously, gather all your savings now, but really look at it as I'm taking these 2 years to invest in myself. What's my pre-MBA salary like, and what's my post-MBA salary like? If I didn't do this degree, how long would it take me to be able to get to that like earning status? And then use that to just kind of like make the decision. But so yes, you can get an on-campus job. You can't work for more than 20 hours a week. I would strongly, strongly, strongly recommend not working your first year of the MBA, and sometimes even your second, depending on if you have a full-time offer from the company that you interned at, and if you want to go back to that company, or if you want to recruit and go in a different direction. So long answer, but really just want to be upfront about this. And I totally understand just, coming in as an international student, what those like pressures are. But yeah, just look at it as you're about to be earning at the very minimum, very, very minimum, $110,000 post MBA. And that's at the very, very minimum. And I almost feel like that's a good guarantee. So just don't, give yourself the time, you might hustle a little bit for the 2 years, but you're going to be great at the end, at the other side of it. So hope that helps, Eniola.
It's true. This
Thank you
is
so
an
much.
investment in your future, right? Sorry, Olamide. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to add to what Tommy said, because I can really relate. Myself and Tommy started this journey together. We just graduated. And what you will find is that this advice doesn't just apply to Rochester as well. She's not just talking about Simon. She's talking about the entire MBA journey, if you are thinking about the 2-year MBA journey. What people don't realize is how much work you have to put in your first year. So if money is the first thing on your mind, to be honest, I would say that it should be the second, because securing an internship is the biggest thing. Getting your grades up, ensuring that you don't fall below like a 3.0, or depending on if you have a scholarship. If you have a scholarship, sometimes there's a minimum average you have to get for your GPA. So just ensuring that you do the things you need to do. So if you need to network as much as possible, if you're recruiting for consulting or investment banking, to be honest, you would not have any time at all. In fact, I don't think you would actually have spare time to be able to say that I want to be able to work. You wouldn't. But just thinking about it from that perspective, that I came for this MBA for a reason. What are the goals I want to be able to achieve? Once you're able to attain those goals, then in your second year after your internship, you can actually get like an on-campus job. And I know that there are a ton of opportunities out there. Like, so don't think about the graduate trainee graduate assistantship as the first thing you are looking for when you're going into an MBA. And I know that some programs actually offer it, but they also cap it in your first year, just to ensure that they don't take away what you are trying to experience in the program.
I just want to add on to that, because I guess I'm the newest one on this journey. Coming in, I felt like I could get a job. I mean, I was like 20 hours a week. Yeah, that's not so bad. I can do this. But I've had to adjust a couple of things. Number one, I've made peace with the fact that I am now a broke student. Coming in, I was not broke. I had a very good job, but now I've adjusted my expectations. That's one. But also two, I realized in this program, there are 3 things you have to focus on. The first is academics, the second is recruiting, and the third is networking. Each of them is demanding. Each of them requires your mind to be focused on it. So if I'm in class, I need to focus on that. I need to be able to be intentional about where I'm applying as an international student. I have to know which companies are willing to sponsor. I have to schedule a coffee chat with the likes of Tommy and Olamide, who've gone through this process before me, to be like, hey, my name is Stella. I'm interested in applying at wherever this person is working. I'm wondering if you can tell me a bit more about the culture. It's a full-time job. Every single day I wake up, I look at my calendar, and it's back to back to back, packed with things that I'm supposed to do. And yes, I did want to get some kind of job on campus, but unless I'm willing to give up on sleep, it's just simply not possible, at least in the first year. And I just got here. So.
And the last thing I do want to add to this is, again, I totally understand, just like taking 2 years from your job where you're getting regular salary, you're already used to a certain lifestyles. University of Rochester does provide support as well. So if you at any point find yourself just like struggling with like maybe groceries or anything, there's the needs hub. It's totally like I can't remember what the word is, but like they don't, you don't have to submit anything. You can literally come pick up groceries that you need. And you can do that as many times. They don't say, oh, you came yesterday or today, you can't come anymore. And there's different ways to kind of like manage your budget. In my first year, I had a roommate, so my rent, and we lived on-campus graduate housing. My rent was, cheaper. You can split like Costco runs with people. In Rochester, we have the bus that's, I think, free with your student ID. You just have to like sign up or something, but it's free. If not, the rides are maybe like $1 and it gets you pretty much everywhere. I've used it tons of times. The shuttles to campus are free. You'll find a classmate who might be good at like threading your brows because you still got to keep it cute. But there's just like different things and different ways that you are able to like manage your budget in B school. But just know that it is a sacrifice taking those 2 years away from everything that you are used to and used to earning. So I think we can still take a couple of questions. I know we have about 5 minutes left.
Tommy and Julie, I have I saw a question I just want to bring up. So someone asked, what considerations are there for women with children? And I remember you highlighted something around your program actually focusing on helping women to actually upskill like their career.
So Julie, I can take a stab at this and then
I'm sorry. Yeah. Clearly, I
can-
can't do two things at once. So
No.
what was the question again? So sorry.
No, you're good. I saw you. I was like, Julie's probably typing. So if you are talking about like when you say women with children, are you thinking about like community support, or are you thinking about like do people who have families actually like come into the program? If that, yes. I mean, I had classmates who gave birth to children while they were in school. And we always say like it takes a community, right? Like reach out, ask for help. I've had some of my classmates who like we've babysat for people. Simon has a partners club, and so sometimes you'll have people who are coming to Rochester with their family and children. And so they have like events, they try to get together just so they're able to build a community as well. But if you're talking specifically about like daycare support, I'm not sure because I came as a single fellow, but I do know I had classmates who had children, and like I said, some of us would like babysit for each other or just kind of like help make sure that there was a supportive community around.
And that's so true. I mean, even Tomi, and even this rising second year class who's coming back in the next week or so. There are definitely women who came with children, with young children. Some came with a partner, and so the partner would help to take care of the children or the child. We did have a couple of single moms that came. I don't think, no, they were both domestic students, so may have had a bit more resources in terms of childcare resources, but it's wonderful coming into a small program because there is a ton of support and we treat it like it really is a family. We want to make sure that partners and children are welcome into our community, and so they do come onto campus for some of our programming, and we want to make sure that we know who the families are. So that's amazing. We've also unfortunately had women who have had to leave their children either in their home country or in another state during the program, just depending on their own situation. And in that sense, that is a very challenging situation, especially we've had African women who have had to leave their children at home, and that's hard. So it really just depends on your own personal situation. In that case, obviously you can completely focus on your program, but not everybody has that opportunity, right? You don't know who knows what your support services are at home. So, yeah.
Just to chime in a little bit, literally yesterday we had our first, I guess it was like a get together of sorts, a bash that's specifically focused on students who moved to Rochester with their partners or their families. And I got to meet a lot of my classmates' spouses, as well as those who had kids, they brought them over. So Simon is really intentional about making sure that you feel supported as a student, whether your partner is already here or you intend to move here with them, or you're both in the program. I think 2 of my classmates are engaged, and they were engaged before they got into the program. So that was nice to see. And then there are others who moved here with their spouses. Simon is very intentional about that sense of community.
I want to go back really quickly to the English language test. Just to clarify, so if you were educated in English for 3 or more years, you are waived of the English language test. So most candidates throughout Africa are waived. So you should not have too much of a problem with that. If you, however, did take it for another reason, maybe another school did require it, and you received a very strong test score, go ahead and submit it, because it will add to your candidacy, but we do not require it. We will never expect you to take the test if you were educated in English for 3 or more years and received a degree from an English speaking institution. Yes, all applications are reviewed with or without a test score, absolutely. So this is what I did want to mention. So if you're looking to go into investment banking at a top bank, or if you're looking to go into MBB, which is McKinsey, Bain, or BCG as consulting, those are obviously incredibly competitive roles to get into and companies to get into. They do look for GMAT scores. I think they're also looking at GRE. So if you have a GRE over a GMAT, that's fine as well, but they are looking for test scores. Now, while we as a school won't require you to have one, and so we won't require you, even if you are going into those roles, what we would tell you is, even if we enroll you and you want to go into those, we will ask you to take the test, because you are never going to have a chance to get into those industries or those companies or banks if you don't have a test score. So just want to put that out there. They haven't really caught up to the test waiver or the test optional component of business school just yet. But obviously that's part of their assessment process and weeding through candidates.
Agreed. I can definitely say for Bank of America, I think I'm not sure which other ones. McKinsey for sure still asks for test scores. So even if you don't take it to get into B school, it's something that you might as well just like prep for. Hopefully they change it soon, because I really don't see how it makes sense. Yeah, but I know we're kind of at time. I wanna, like Julie said, we always try to be respectful of just everyone's time. And yeah, thank you. Would it be helpful? I can just give like a quick 2-minute like advice, I guess, for like going into this process and thinking about Simon. I would say, I've already like gone over this, is like, be yourself, truly. Don't be the candidate that you think, Simon wants to see. Be the candidate that you are. And that's the best way, because if you think about it, you're coming into a new community for 2 years. It's going to be hard to put up a front for the entire 2 years. So be yourself. Show how you can add value to the community, and also show what you're willing to learn from the community. And I would say, just with the application process, start early. So I think just through the chat, like we already said, but the application opens, I think, August 25th. So even if you're looking to do round 1 or round 2, please start early, so that way you know what the essay questions are. You can start just to take a stab at writing them. One thing that really helped me was I would send my friends that were good at writing like the essays without the prompt, and I'll just say, hey, can you figure out like what this essay is meant to, be kind of like addressing? And if they got it, then I knew like I was somewhere on the right path. Your true references don't have to be professional, but make sure it's people that know you very well. So don't go and look for director of like, I don't know, the biggest bank or whatever because of their title, and they really don't know you as, if they ever had to like if Simon ever had to reach out to them, they don't know you that much. But more than anything, I would say enjoy the entire journey. I know that some people, for people who want to get in touch with me, please feel free to add me on LinkedIn. So here's the thing that I always ask. I'm like, please go through the website. I'm very big on details. I'm very big on like information. So go through the website. There's past webinars that you can listen to. Whenever we do connect, I want to make sure that I'm giving you the best of my time and you're also spending the best of your time with me. So if it's like a question that you feel like could be answered online, please just take that time to like read through. But I'm happy to connect with anyone through LinkedIn. For anyone that joined late, you can just feel free to like put in the, connection message box where you say, connecting from like the Lane MBA session. But yeah, those are like, I guess, the little tidbits of advice that I would give as you start this journey. I hope to see some, if not all of you at Simon, sitting on this side of the alum, table. But thank you so much for coming through today. So I will hush there and let Stella or Julie or Alamide round up.
I just
Thank
want to
you so much.
go ahead. Sorry.
No, Julie, you can go. I'm gonna go after you. I just didn't want people to go yet. I wanted yourself, Tomi, and also Stella to actually drop your LinkedIn or contact details in the chat box below. So in case people are leaving, because I can see people are leaving already.
Great, thank you. And everyone can see my scheduling link. This is reserved for Lane of Africa. Please don't post this on other forums. This is for you. I unfortunately have limited time, but I just wanted to thank Tomilola and Stella for joining me today. They are the most incredible people in the whole world, and I'm so thankful to have them as members of our assignment community. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. I hope you learned lots about our program and you'll apply early. Round 1, October 15th.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. If you
Thank
filled
you.
in your details in the application waiver form, Simon would also have access to your details as well. So they would be reaching out to you. You would get an email from admissions, if not Julie by herself. But thank you so much for your time. And we're here next week as well, same time. Thank you so much. Tomi, Julie, Stella, everyone, enjoy your weekend. And thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Thank you, guys.
Alamide.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks, Julie.
Have a great evening.